The ocean. Deeper than any mountain, quieter than any graveyard, has always hidden secrets that make humanity both enchanted and terrified. Beneath its black ink-thick waters where light is swallowed, within a few meters every creature abides by a single law: hunt or be hunted. But there was once a being that made even the ocean tremble, something that made sailors pray before setting sail. It had no fins like a shark, no teeth like an orca, only tentacles as long as masts and a shadow vast enough to swallow a ship whole. They called it the Kraken, the nightmare that slithered in the deep, half myth, half memory, a ghost of a world humankind never truly owned. And tonight, we'll dive where sunlight never reaches, to ask whether something real ever lived beneath those stories. Part 1. When Legends Sailed the Seas. Of all tales ever told upon the water, none were as feared or as famous as the Kraken, the creature said to be large enough to engulf an entire ship. To sailors, it was a midnight terror. To 18th century naturalists, it was considered a credible threat. Zoologist Denis de Montfort once seriously proposed that Krakens had sunk 10 British warships in 1782. Yes, there were official reports written about it. But what made the Kraken truly frightening wasn't that it was real, it was that it might have been. Today, we know that those Krakens likely stemmed from encounters with giant squids, Tusoteuthis ducks, and colossal squids, Tusoteuthis hamiltoni, two of the largest invertebrates on Earth. A giant squid can stretch over 60 feet long. A colossal squid can weigh half a ton. In an age when ships were fragile and telescopes rare, even a brief glimpse of such a creature breaking the surface was enough to turn anyone into either a poet or a ghost storyteller. Honestly, if you were rowing a wooden boat across the North Atlantic and saw something with tentacles the size of a mast, you'd write poetry too. Yet the real Krakens had appeared 500 million years earlier, in the Cambrian period. Earth's oceans were exploding with new life, and the first ancestors of squids, the cephalopods, began experimenting with something evolution had never seen before, grasping hunting tentacles. They evolved from simple, straight-shelled mollusks and quickly took command of the seas through intelligence and dexterity. By the early Ordovician, there were already over 30 genera, a rapid evolutionary expansion that paved the way for the world's first ancient, Kraken Endoceras. Imagine a squid, 30 feet long, sealed inside a limestone-heavy shell, moving through the water by jet propulsion. That was Endoceras, the largest predator on the planet at the time. These straight-shelled nautiloids lived in warm equatorial seas. Species like Endoceras and Cambrian ruled the globe. Their fossils have been found from North America to Europe. And don't forget, this was a time before fish had jaws. So essentially, Endoceras was the first shark, just with armor and tentacles. With a shell weighing nearly a ton, Endoceras wasn't agile. It likely lurked near the seafloor, waiting for prey to swim by, then lashed out its tentacles like a living bear trap. Its chitin beak could crush trilobites, the dominant crustaceans of the age. Like modern squids, Endoceras used jet propulsion through a funnel, a biological engine invented hundreds of millions of years before humans thought of one. It was this weapon that made Endoceras the apex predator of the Ordovician seas, until the Earth changed seasons. Around 455 million years ago, the planet entered the late Ordovician Ice Age, one of the 5 great mass extinctions. As temperatures dropped, the warm water cephalopods vanished almost entirely. The Endocerida dynasty went extinct, leaving behind fossils as farewell letters from Earth's first oceanic kings. But whenever the sea loses a monster, it always prepares an update. After the catastrophe, cephalopods shrank and withdrew. For over 200 million years, they lived quietly as mid-tier predators. Some, like Endoceras, still reached 8 feet long, but they were no longer rulers. They shared the seas with primitive sharks and enormous arthropods. Yet, this age saw one revolutionary innovation, the ink sac, a miraculous escape tool that turned squid into masters of illusion. It was the first stealth weapon ever invented, long before anyone knew who Batman was. Part 2. The Rise of the New Krakens. When the Permian period ended with the greatest extinction in history, the oceans essentially hit reset. This time, the ammonites, spiral-shelled relatives of Endoceras, rose to prominence. Some species, like Cretaceous, reached shells over 5.5 feet wide, 17 times larger than a modern nautilus. They flourished throughout the Triassic seas, not as killers, but as ecological engineers filtering water and creating habitats for other life. The Kraken might have vanished, but its extended family basically opened a global chain of franchises. By the Jurassic period, cephalopods were longer and heavier than ever. The fossil Parapuzosia sepenredensis, discovered in Germany, had a diameter of 4.7 feet and weighed over 1.3 tons, twice as heavy as today's giant squids. Most ammonites fed on small prey, but a few might have been active hunters, using powerful jet bursts to chase fish and crustaceans. These new Krakens weren't as terrifying as the mythical monster, but they were real. And sometimes reality itself is already extraordinary enough. As humans left behind their sails and wooden ships, the Kraken left the ocean and swam straight into culture. But its roots from the ancient Endoceras to the modern colossal squid still remain. We may no longer fear being swallowed by the sea, yet whenever we gaze into dark water and glimpse a tentacle sliding beneath the waves, some primal instinct still whispers, something down there is watching back. In the Jurassic Europe and Asia, we're covered by shallow, warm seas, where a creature named belemnite appeared, the direct ancestor of modern squids. One remarkable species, Tusoteuthis, or Belemnites mayeri, reached over 10 feet long, becoming the largest squid of its time. Though it lacked the flexible tentacles of modern squids, it possessed an internal conical skeleton, giving it a streamlined body perfect for pursuit. If you're thinking it's just a squid, imagine one armed, not with suckers, but with 800 hooks, each as sharp as a razor blade. These weren't just for gripping prey, they could pierce the skin of fish or small marine reptiles. Combined with a chitin beak, hard as steel, belemnites could slice off chunks of flesh in seconds. Some fossils even show bite marks from their attacks on ancient fish bones. They weren't ocean monsters on the Kraken scale, but they were terrifying enough to make you change direction fast. And if you were a fish, meeting one meant you'd just been invited to dinner as the main course. As the Cretaceous period dawned, the cephalopods reached yet another evolutionary peak. In the vast western interior seaway, the inland ocean that once split North America in three giants ruled side by side Tusoteuthis, Endoceras, and Parapuzosia. The first two were shell-less, looking more like modern squids than ammonites, and are often described as the ancient vampire squids. For a long time, people believed they could grow up to 35 feet long, but newer studies suggest a more realistic size of around 10 feet, with thick muscular bodies resembling today's colossal squids. Unlike their heavier ancestors, Tusoteuthis and Endoceras had large, lateral fins that gave them both balance and speed. Their streamlined anatomy suggests they were active pursuit predators, able to hunt fish, small marine reptiles, and even seabirds unlucky enough to crash land in their territory. They moved like living torpedoes, surging from the dark, their short but powerful tentacles coiling around their prey. Perhaps these were the real prototypes for those tentacles wrapping ship scenes imagined millions of years later. Yet even these hunters were not the final true Kraken. That title belonged to Parapuzosia sepenredensis, a gigantic ammonite whose fossil found in Germany spans more than 11 feet in diameter, about as tall as a standing SUV. If its spiral shell were unwound, it would stretch to 60 feet long. The shell alone weighed close to 3,000 pounds, making Parapuzosia the heaviest invertebrate ever known. If it had to pay hull insurance, the company would have gone bankrupt within a week. Part 3. The Fall of the Kraken and the Whispers Below. Paleontologists still debate, was Parapuzosia an opportunistic feeder, devouring anything from fish and small marine mammals to drifting carcasses, or was it a herbivorous Kraken, filtering plankton like today's baleen whales? The truth may lie somewhere in between. With its enormous size, Parapuzosia likely didn't need to chase prey. Just opening its mouth in the current could turn the sea itself into a buffet. Whatever its diet, it proved one eternal truth: the ocean never stops making oversized versions of itself. Ironically, the birthplace of the giant sea monster attacking cities legend, Japan, is also where scientists found the largest fossilized squid beaks on Earth. 2 of them, unearthed in Hokkaido, were twice the size of modern giant squid beaks. They were named Tusoteuthis and Hiboteuthis, and while their bodies weren't necessarily twice as big, researchers believe their bite force far exceeded any living squid. Some specimens were so massive that one paleontologist admitted, "We have no idea what kind of squid would ever need a beak that large." Then came a crazy, yet oddly famous theory, the Triassic Kraken. One paleontologist claimed that 9 ichthyosaurs found clustered together in Nevada were actually killed and deliberately arranged by a colossal squid over 100 feet long. The idea sounded straight out of a Hollywood script, and as expected, most colleagues dismissed it. There were no squid fossils, only marine reptile bones. But a few years later, the same scientist discovered a fossilized squid beak in the very same region. It was only 2 inches long, about the size of a modern giant squid's, but he insisted it was proof that the Triassic Kraken was real. Other scientists simply smiled. After all, the thought of a Triassic-era squid hunting ancient sharks isn't a bad campfire story for a night at sea. And who knows, a few million years from now, perhaps another creature will tell stories about us the way we tell stories about the Kraken. The deep sea is never truly silent. Its heartbeat simply beats slower than ours, lower, colder, echoing through the ages. The ancient Krakens have dissolved into time. The ships they once dragged beneath the waves are now only salt and sand. But the fear of them still lingers hidden in the instincts of every creature that breathes. Today, humans may stand at the top of the food chain, but somewhere beneath the dark layers of water, in a fleeting moment when the sonar flickers and a shadow slides across the screen, we remember that we are merely guests in this world. Because the ocean never forgets. And what once lived within it, sometimes still waits. So if you ever look down into the water and see a shape moving below, remember, it might not be just your imagination. Like, share, and subscribe to join us on more journeys into the ancient and mysterious, where legends never die, they only sleep beneath the waves.